The star-strewn nothingness of the Caridian expanse stretched before the Ulalan-class war frigate Vasker, its sleek obsidian hull drifting in silent vigil within the vessel's cavernous corridors. Every surface hummed with latent power, fusion. Reactors thrummed deep in the engineering shafts, biosensors monitored every crew member's vitals, and the gravitic generators held the ship's vast mass in painstaking balance against the void. On the bridge, Captain Salif Kara surveyed the tactical displays with narrowed amber eyes. Her mandibles clicked in subdued anticipation as she rifled through the incoming calm chatter. The Ulalan Empire had claimed dominion over this sector decades ago, stamping out dissent and extinguishing scattered pirate enclaves. Yet rumors persisted, whispers of human interlopers venturing beyond chartered boundaries. Kara regarded such reports with contempt. Humanity had no standing here. They were new to the galactic stage, their fleet little more than fishing boats masquerading as warships. "Captain," piped Lieutenant Ranva, her slender form illuminated by the soft glow of the holo console. "Our long-range scanners have detected two vessels exiting the neutral corridor at bearing 107. 3 signatures match human concordance corvettes." Kara's mandibles curved in a half-smile. "Show me." The tactical projection shimmered, rendering the needle-like silhouettes drifting into sensor range. Against the backdrop of distant suns, they were almost invisible, tiny specks of silver against the black. "Minimal shield profile," noted weapons officer Senthvar, adjusting his controls. "Armament appears limited to ion disruptors and projectile cannons. They pose no significant threat." "Exactly," Kara replied, her tone silk smooth. "Let them come closer. We'll let them bask in defeat before they even see our main batteries spin up." She tapped the console, shifting the Vasker into a new vector, slowing just enough to draw the corvettes within sensor. Locked out outside. The viewport, distant stars streaked past as the frigate altered course. Down the corridor, echoing footsteps, soft but precise, announced the arrival of her executive officer, Commander Zelith Hun. The grizzled veteran's exoskeletal plating bore the scars of countless engagements. "So we bait them," Hun murmured, leaning over Kara's shoulder. "Is this truly necessary? We might simply drive them off with a display of our power." Kara turned, her posture regal. "They believe the human fleet is limited. Let them think our numbers scarce. They'll commit to the ambush, and then..." She traced her claw across the holo schematic, where blinking red icons marked the approaching corvettes. "Then the Vasker's wings will unfold. We'll crush their flank and scatter their fragments across the void." Hun studied her, concern flickering in his multifaceted eyes. "Your strategy is sound. But remember, these humans are unpredictable. They adapt quickly and fight with reckless abandon." "Adaptation is futile against overwhelming force," Kara replied, "and their reckless abandon will be extinguished." A crisp chime interrupted them, the bridge AI announcing sensor updates. On the main holo screen, the faint outlines of 2 sleek vessels glowed brighter as they powered up their energy shields. Captain Kara straightened. "Very well. Prepare the ion cannons and plasma turrets. Helm, maintain current vector, but reduce speed by 2%. I want optimal firing solutions at 120,000 kilometers." "Aye, Captain," came the responses in rapid succession. The hum of the engines lessened as the helm officer throttled back. Shield generators glowed aquamarine, while the plasma turrets rotated into firing arcs. Minutes stretched into an eternity as tension mounted. The 2 human corvettes drifted closer, their hulls shimmering with adaptive alloy plating, an experimental technology rumored to disperse high-energy impacts. Kara recognized the pattern. She had seen early prototypes in the Concordance archives, a petty puzzle piece of intelligence, soon to be broken. Then, as the distance closed to 150,000 kilometers, Kara gave the command, "Fire." On the Vasker's forward deck, twin plasma turrets roared to life, disgorging torrents of ionized matter that lanced toward the leading corvette. In a brilliant flash, the bolts struck the human ship's shields, sending rippling shockwaves across the vessel's surface. The corvette shuddered, the halo of its deflector field momentarily straining under the assault. "Direct hit, but shields held," reported Senthvar, his voice tight with concentration. Kara's mandibles curled in a predatory grin. "Good. Now the mass drivers volley alpha. Rays of electromagnetic Gauss cannons along the Vasker's dorsal railings discharged, hurling hyperdense slugs at hypersonic speed. The projectiles sliced through the void, each one packing enough kinetic force to breach battleship armor at point-blank range. The corvette rocked violently as the first slugs impacted. A gout of incandescent plasma erupted along its portside corridor, tearing a jagged wound in the hull. The shield rippled, struggling to contain the breach, but the second mass driver volley found its mark, forcing the field converters to divert maximum power. Two localized reinforcement panels of composite armor flaked away, tumbling into the void. Yet the humans did not falter. In a swift counterstrike, both corvettes veered in tandem, unleashing synchronized ion streams. Brilliant cobalt beams arced toward the Vasker's midsection, scouring away sections of ablative plating and igniting flares of secondary combustion. Warning klaxons bellowed as the frigate jolted, systems reporting localized failures across multiple decks. Shields at 50%, announced the tactical officer, voice edged with alarm. Kara's mandibles snapped together. She had underestimated their resolve and their firepower. Redirect power from the aft drive coils to the shields. Focus on the damaged sectors. Weapons teams, prepare for boarding defenses. I do not want their infiltrators burrowing into our hull. The Vasker's crew leaped into action. Engineering teams rerouted auxiliary lines, amplifying shield recirculation rates. Automated turrets engaged targeting protocols against incoming missiles. Energy banks surged, sloshing power from the drive core into the defensive matrices. Through her binocular optics, Kara observed the humans' split formation, darting into a nearby asteroid field, a labyrinth of floating monoliths and jagged rock spires. Their small size and agility made them ideal for hit-and-run strikes. If the Vasker pursued directly, she risked striking rock instead of enemy steel. Let them think they can escape, Kara mused. Prepare interdiction fields. We'll trap them where they misstep. She keyed the command to deploy tractor nets, cohesion beams that would ensnare any vessel trying to dart between asteroids. Outside, ghostly streams of gravitational energy snared the trailing corvette, its inertial dampeners flaring as it fought to break free. The lead ship reversed thrust, its engines barking in protest as it looped to engage. Brilliant streams of ionized plasma slashed through the void, grazing the Vasker's dorsal plating. For the briefest moment, Kara hesitated. She saw in their maneuvers something she had never considered: bold opportunism, fluid strategy, and above all, unwavering confidence. Her chest swelled with indignation. No matter, she whispered. They will learn why attacking a human ship is the Eulalon's greatest miscalculation. As the Vasker's gravity nets tightened, and the frigate pivoted to crush its adversaries, Captain Kara felt the thrilling surge of imminent victory. Yet beneath that ardor a flicker of unease took root. In the vast, uncharted expanse of space, true war was not measured by the power of one's weapons, but by the depths of one's resolve. And Captain Marina Echelon's resolve shone with a light fierce enough to pierce the void itself. The Vasker's interdiction nets snapped taut like crystalline threads across the yawning chasm of the Corridian expanse, ensnaring the trailing Concordance corvette Aurora's pride in a web of microsingularity beams. Captain Marina Echelon, eyes fixed on the swirling mass on her viewport's tactical grid, felt the familiar surge of adrenaline. The trap had sprung just as she'd planned, but the price would be high. Helm, brace for feedback ripple, she ordered, voice calm but urgent. Weapons, hold fire until I give the word. Behind her, the bridge crew tensed, as the Aurora's pride shuddered under the strain of the gravitic snare. On the starboard hull, lightning blue arcwhips danced where containment fields buckled. In response, the second corvette, Resolve's Wrath, vaulted forward, weaving through the asteroids to draw the Vasker's attention away from its sister ship. Lieutenant Ranva's slender fingers fluttered over her holo console. There, attempting a pincer maneuver. Captain, Resolve's Wrath is closing fast on our ventral flank. The corvette emerged like a silver arrow, weaving behind a monolithic asteroid before unveiling its broadside ion battery. Hot blue-white beams cut across the void toward the Vasker's underbelly. Where dozens of auxiliary power conduits lay exposed, Captain Salith Kara snarled. "Target their guns, Synth." The weapons officer throttled the plasma turrets and mass drivers. Twin arcs of violet energy snaked toward Resolve's wrath. Each bolt carved a trench through space itself, and one struck the corvette's shield grid squarely, sending ripples of displacement across its surface. Still, the shield held its adaptive field pulsing like a living thing. Onboard the Aurora's Pride, Commander Jiro Kale seized the moment. "Now, Captain," in the missile bays below decks, small pods armed with electromagnetically charged Marine squads launched into the void. Each pod split into 3, releasing swarms of human combatants wearing sleek EVA suits, bristling with EMP charges. They pushed through the tractor nets with magnetic grapplers, latching onto the Vasker's outer hull in a shower of sparks. Alarm klaxons shrieked on the Vasker's deck as the human Marines overlaid swarms of bioadhesive gel and triggered synchronized electromagnetic bursts. The resulting EMP wave rippled through the Yulalan frigate's exterior plating, frying sensors, COM relays, and secondary power buses. Sector reports blinked across Commander Han's console. Com rays offline. Targeting subroutines scrambled. Auxiliary thrusters unresponsive. Even the interdiction nets flickered and collapsed in ragged arcs. Below decks, in Vasker's engineering nexus, pandemonium reigned. Sparks cascaded down holoshafts as Yulalan technicians scrambled to isolate fried circuits. The fusion core's output oscillated, threatening to surge beyond safe parameters. Lieutenant Malrus, the chief engineer, shouted above the din. "Divert. Emergency reserves to core dampeners. Seal the containment loops." Sweat gleamed on his scales as he wrenched valves closed and jacked power conduits through redundant grid paths. Above, on the battered bridge, Kara's amber eyes reflected frustration and something darker, fear. The Vasker, her pride and flagship, had never known defeat. "Status," she demanded. "Structural integrity at 60%, Senthva reported, voice tight. Weapons offline on dorsal turret banks. Only forward ion cannons remain functional. Then, we go on the offensive, with what we have left," Kara hissed. "Prepare point defense lasers. Target the Marines' magnetic anchors. Break their grip." Back on the Aurora's Pride, Marina Echelon heard the distant echo of laser fire fracturing the hull around them. Through her viewport, she saw bursts of golden light dancing across the Vasker's plating, each shot aimed precisely at the clustered EMP teams. In the heat of battle, human medics aboard the pods dashed from wounded Marine to wounded Marine, sloshing Atavzian Selene and throwing up their own protective field generators. Commander Kale, "Pick your moment," Echelon said quietly. "Once their boarding crews are cut loose, we focus fire on their ventral armor plating just above the core access port. A well-placed ion strike there could cripple their engines permanently." Kale nodded. Steeling himself understood. The second corvette roared into view, bringing its broadside battery to bear. A pulse cannon barrel glowed white-hot, then flared, sending a jet of focused ions that streaked toward the Vasker's underbelly. The energy beam carved through ablative armor, gouging an ember-hot trench and rupturing hydraulic lines. The Yulalan frigate lurched, its inertial dampeners screaming as the spine of the ship bucked under the assault. Captain Kara's mandibles twitched in fury. "Enough," she roared. "Ramming speed, activate collision vectors on my command." But before the Vasker could pivot, the humans enacted their final gambit. A third volley of missile pods launched from the Aurora's Pride, this time carrying specialized nanite swarms designed to infiltrate and disable systems from within. They darted through microvents and maintenance conduits, seeking power nodes and targeting relays. Nanites detected in the auxiliary grid. "Captain," Hun shouted, backing away from his console. "They're eating through our fire control systems." Kara's eyes narrowed, calculating. Her reptilian physiology prized brute force, yet she recognized now that in the theater of human warfare, precision and cunning held the advantage. "Fall back to defensive grid alpha," she barked. "Shields forward, concentrate on survival." The Vasker shuddered, twisting away from the corvette's firing arcs and presenting its strongest armor to the enemy. On the bridge's viewport, Thrusters flared in deep crimson as gravitic compensators strained. Still, the damage was done. Power couplings overloaded. Secondary life support flickering in the bowels of the ship. And dozens of crew casualties reported across the lower decks. Below, human Marines and Concordance engineers worked side by side, reinforcing makeshift bracing and patching ruptured coolant lines. In one narrow passage, a wounded Yulalan technician lay crumpled against the bulkhead. Clutching his side, a human medic knelt beside him, hands glowing with biogel as she treated burns and reattached severed nerves. "Why?" the technician gasped, eyes wide with pain. "Because no one deserves to die alone," the medic replied softly, her fingers steady, high above. The Vasker's bridge fell silent as the massive frigate drifted in the void. Critically wounded but not yet defeated, Captain Kara stared at the departing corvettes, their sleek silhouettes growing smaller. Against the starlit expanse, each ship represented not just a tactical victory for humanity, but a rebuke to the Yulalan creed of conquest. When the Aurora's pride and Resolve's wrath blinked out of sensor range, Captain Echelon allowed herself a single exhale. "That should buy us time," she said. "Time to inform the Concordance command. The Yulalan strike fleet is not invincible." And somewhere deep within the Vasker, Salith Kara nursed her own realization. In challenging humanity, she had unleashed a foe whose ingenuity and tenacity no armor, no matter how advanced, could ever fully contain. The star-strewn nothingness of the Caridian expanse stretched before the Yulalan-class war frigate Vasker, its sleek obsidian hull drifting in silent vigil within the vessel's cavernous corridors. Every surface hummed with latent power, fusion. Reactors thrummed deep in the engineering shafts, biosensors monitored every crew member's vitals, and the gravitic generators held the ship's vast mass in painstaking balance against the void. On the bridge, Captain Salith Kara surveyed the tactical displays with narrowed amber eyes. Her mandibles clicked in subdued anticipation as she rifled through the incoming calm chatter. The Yulalan Empire had claimed dominion over this sector decades ago, stamping out dissent and extinguishing scattered pirate enclaves. Yet rumors persisted, whispers of human interlopers venturing beyond chartered boundaries. Kara regarded such reports with contempt. Humanity had no standing here. They were new to the galactic stage, their fleet little more than fishing boats masquerading as warships. "Captain," piped Lieutenant Ranva, her slender form illuminated by the soft glow of the holo console. "Our long-range scanners have detected 2 vessels exiting the neutral corridor at bearing to 107.3. Signatures match human deep within the gutted corridors of the Vasker." The echoes of distant explosions had given way to the staccato hiss of emergency bulkhead seals. Red warning lights flickered in the smoke-choked passageways as human Marines and Yulalan technicians worked side by side, their weapons idle but their hands unflinching at the tasks at hand. Among the writhing conduits and fractured control panels, something remarkable was taking shape, a fragile alliance born of necessity and steeled by shared peril. One, the engineering nexus. Lieutenant Malrus crouched beside the fractured coolant, manifold in Deck 7's engineering nexus, his scaled hide darkened by grime. Sparks danced where severed power lines dangled, each flicker a testament to the reactor's wounded state. A Concordance engineer petty officer Amina Voss held a plasma torch at just the right angle to cauterize a leaking pipe. Steam hissed in scalding sheets. "Hold steady," Voss murmured, adjusting her visor's tint. "If I reroute these conduits through the secondary manifold, we can bypass the damaged section entirely." Malrus translated her plan with swift clicks of his mandibles. A human's hands were smaller than any Yulalan technician's, but precise, able to thread micro-welds through the narrowest gaps. Under their combined efforts, the manifold shimmered as new nanofiber conduits took shape, temporarily restoring coolant flow to the portside drive coils. As the emergency pumps sputtered back to life, a wave of relief rippled through the compartment. Malrus offered a low, rumbling trill, a near smile in Yulalan terms. Voss tapped him on the forearm. "Well done, Lieutenant. We make a good team." He inclined his head. "For now, human." Beneath the grudging humor lay genuine respect. Point 2. Fields of healing on deck above. The medical bay had become a surreal tableau of alien physiology and human first aid. Yulalan crew members taller and stronger, but unfamiliar with human anatomy, lay side by side with wounded Marines. Human doctors hovered over gaping reptilian lacerations, while Yulalan biotechnicians studied human burns and shrapnel wounds. Sergeant Lyra Chen, Concordance field medic, knelt beside Corporal Zathker, whose mottled green scales were scorched across his chest. She applied a biogel sheet adapted from Yulalan regenerative serum, murmuring encouragement. Zathker's multifaceted eyes tracked her every movement, curiosity overcoming fear. "You trust," he rasped in broken common. "Why help me?" Chen paused, hand over his still-beating heart. "Because you're alive." Her voice was soft but unyielding, and because no creature deserves to die alone. Round them, other medic pairs exchanged techniques, and Yulalan doctor demonstrated pheromone-based pain suppressants, while a human nurse taught how tricorder ultrasounds could locate internal bleeding. Through each shared procedure, barriers dissolved. 3. Battlefront bellow farther aft in the weapons bay. The boarding pods that once hurled human Marines now lay shattered. Centuries-dead circuitry had sparked back to life under the ministrations of human engineers. Captain Marina Echelon stepped through the narrow hatch, flanked by Commander Jiro Kale and Petty Officer Voss. A squad of Marines saluted crisply. Captain Lieutenant Malrus approached, wiping soot from his uniform plating. "We've reinstated partial power to the dorsal plasma turrets. They'll cycle every 90 seconds. Enough to keep any further attackers at bay." Echelon nodded. "Good. We'll need those turrets operational for the transit out of this sector." She looked down the corridor, where battered Yulalan weapons racks had been cleared and human ion projectors mounted in there. "Place your tactics," Malrus said quietly, "are unorthodox, adaptive." Almina Voss interjected with a grin. "Space doesn't care about doctrine, only what works." Malrus permitted a brief trill of laughter. "Perhaps humanity has much to teach us." His gaze steadied. "Thank you." 4. The council chambers in the Vasker's once grand council chambers. Damaged holomaps still glowed in fractured fragments around a central dais. Captain Kara sat there now, alone except for the ever-watchful Commander Han. Her armor bore scorch marks and her crest was cracked, but her posture remained unbowed. Han cleared his throat. "Captain, the humans have restored critical systems beyond our expectations. The warp core is stable at 40% capacity. Shields can sustain a limited charge. We could attempt hypothesis C." "No," Kara interrupted, her gaze distant. "We cannot continue this as enemies." She rose, energy rippling through her at each deliberate step. "They saved my ship, they saved my crew, and in so doing, they did what no other species has dared. Show me mercy." Han's antennae twitched. "Mercy is illogical, but so is annihilation," Kara replied, fingers curling around the cracked railing. "We are adversaries no longer. We will withdraw to Yulalan space for our own repairs, and we will reconsider our position toward humanity." She turned to the viewport, where the twin glimmers of the human corvettes drifted in silent vigil. "Tell them I come in peace." 5. A promise of unity down on the docking bay. Captain Echelon awaited, leaning against the ladder of her shuttle, when Kara descended. Each step echoing in the cavernous hangar, the two women met at last. One human, one Yulalan, shields down, weapons holstered. Echelon extended a gloved hand. Kara regarded it for a heartbeat, then clasped it in her three-fingered claw. No words were spoken. None were needed. In that touch lay an unspoken vow to transcend old hatreds and forge a bond unbreakable in the face of the cosmic dark. Behind them, human Marines and Yulalan crew watched in startled silence, then broke into cautious applause. Sparks flew as the hangar's lights blinked to green. The repaired plasma turrets glowed faintly overhead, a reminder of both the fragility and the strength of steel and of hearts. As Kara and Echelon parted, the human captain spoke softly. "May this be the first of many steps toward true understanding." Kara inclined her head. "And may the Yulalan remember that negotiating with humans is no less complex than fighting them." Above, the hissing of the hatch sealed shut, and the human shuttle lifted away on the battered deck of the Vasker. A single holocom link flickered to life. Kara's voice carried clearly across the void. Concordance command. This is Captain Salif Kara of the Vasker. We survived in part because of humanity's mercy. I propose a formal ceasefire and an exchange of knowledge. Let this battle be recorded not as our last clash, but as the beginning of something greater. Her words trailed into silence, the vast emptiness of space ready to receive them. And for the first time, the heart of the Yulalan Empire beat in tandem with the pulse of human resolve. In the crucible of war, a new alliance was forged in steel and spirit. The shuttle's hatch sealed with a pneumatic hiss, and the docking bay lights narrowed to a pinpoint as it vanished into the corridor's murk. On the deck of the Vasker, the aftermath of battle lay in scattered debris and scorched plating. But beneath the ruin stirred a new purpose. Throughout the frigate, systems hummed back to life, fragile but resilient, while crews of both species moved together in harmonious urgency. 1. Preparations for departure. Engineering Nexus Alpha. Lieutenant Maurus and Petty Officer Amina Voss oversaw the last-minute rerouting of emergency power. Nanite-repaired conduits glowed faintly beneath transparent shielding. Core stability at 90%, Maurus reported, voice tinged with awe. We should have full warp capability in 15 minutes. Voss tapped her tricorder, confirming. Suit diagnostics. Concordance technicians have done wonders with your nanite protocols. Never thought I'd see the day I'd retrofit ultra-refractory armor into a human battlesuit. Maurus rumbled a low laugh. And I never thought I'd call you a partner. Yet here we are. At the far wall, a large viewport framed the endless glitter of stars. Beyond them, 2 human corvettes drifted in formation, their sleek lines, a symbol of cautious solidarity rather than intimidation. The image struck Maurus with a sudden clarity. When 2 worlds collide, neither is quite the same. Afterward. 2. Council of 2 captains in the Vaskers reactivated, though still scarred bridge. Captain Salif Kara and Commander Zelith Hun waited. As Captain Marina Echelon's return shuttle aligned for docking, the viewports cast pale light across the deck, illuminating panels still flickering from the recent EMP and bombardment. Captain Hun began, antennae quivering with measured respect. Once we depart this sector, Yulalan High Command will demand explanations for the losses, the ceasefire, and this alliance. Kara's amber eyes narrowed in contemplation. She had anticipated his concern. They will demand. Zelith, she replied, but I will speak truth, that this war nearly cost us our greatest asset, our unity of purpose. I will tell them how humanity's audacity and compassion saved us both. Hun exhaled a soft hiss. You are prepared for political upheaval. Prepared enough. Kara stood, her silhouette framed against the stellar tapestry. For once, the Empire's greatest miscalculation will not be a ship's assault, but underestimating the power of mercy. Moments later, the shuttle's hatch cycled open. Marina Echelon stepped forth, uniform crisp and immaculate despite the mission's perils. She offered Kara a firm nod. Captain Kara, she said, extending a gloved hand. Warp corridor is charted to our rendezvous point. All systems nominal on our end. Kara clasped her hand in her 3-pronged claw. Good. We depart in 10 minutes. But before we leave, there is one final task. 3. A shared memorial in Hangar Bay 3. Human Marines and Yulalan crew had erected a makeshift monument. From the twisted wreckage of a mass driver barrel and a shattered Corvette hull plate, the 2 fragments now stood upright, joined at a stainless steel base, over which floated a holo emblem, the triple helix of the Concordance entwined. With the fractal crest of the Yulalan Empire. Captain Kara approached first, her armored boots clicking on the metal plating. She placed a ceremonial hand on the base. Here we remember the fallen, both human and Yulalan, who gave their lives at the edge of this starfield. A human medic, Lyra Chen, stepped forward with a datapad. She recited names in alternating cadence. Soldiers of the Concordance, warriors of the Empire. Each name hovered in holographic glyphs beside the monument, shimmering like distant suns. Let this symbol endure, Chen intoned, voice steady, as proof that in the crucible of combat, we found not only death but also the seeds of understanding. Below the memorial glow, a young Yulalan ensign traced the Concordance crest with a finger, then glanced at her human counterpart. the exchange of looks curiosity. Then tentative pride sealed the moment more than any speech. Point 4. The warp point back. On the bridge, the warp coils glowed sapphire as technicians prepared the Vasker for faster-than-light travel. Captain Echelon monitored the final sensor sweeps. "Nothing incoming," she reported. "Sector clear." "Then let us go," Kara commanded. At her nod, Hun initiated the warp sequence. Lights dimmed, and the hull vibrated as gravimetric fields folded space around the ship. The viewport rippled, and in a moment that felt like both an eternity and an instant, the frigate vanished from the Caridian expanse. Only the twin corvettes remained at the designated escape buoys, then followed in perfect tandem as the warp gate collapsed. 5. Echoes in the void within the warp tunnel. Captain Kara and Captain Echelon stood side by side before the holocom console. The blue light played across their faces, soldiers bound by circumstance, now bound by conviction. "Concordance command, this is Salif Kara," Echelon declared, voice crisp. "Deliver my message. The Vasker stands allied with humanity. Cease hostilities in our sector immediately, and prepare for diplomatic envoy negotiations." On the other feed, Yulalan High Command, a formation of crystalline war bureaus, blinked in surprise. Their cold deliberance gave way to a ripple of static, and then one word: explain. Kara inhaled, her mandibles flexing. "We explain. How the greatest miscalculation an empire can make is to see another species only as a threat. Today, we learned that compassion, more than conquest, defines the future of the stars." Silence followed, a pregnant pause across galactic channels. Before the High Command's emblem flickered, signaling transmission closed. Echelon placed a hand on Kara's shoulder. "They will come around." Kara's gaze drifted to the swirling patterns of the warp field. "Or they will try to force us back into the old wars. If they do, we will stand together, humans, and Yulalan as proof that unity outshines dominion." 6. A new dawn as the Vasker and her escort surged toward the rendezvous of peace. Every crew member felt the weight of history shifting. In mess halls, humans and aliens broke bread, a stew of foraged tubers with spiced Yulalan broth. Humans synth bread with fermented sky fruits. Laughter echoed where once only disciplined silence had lingered. In the brig, enemy prisoners once sworn to die rather than yield sat talking earnestly, sharing stories of homes they'd never see again, of children and hatchlings left vulnerable. Guards let them speak, for in their voices lay the human warmth Kara had once dismissed. And above it all, in the council chambers where war maps once glittered with kill zones, a new hologrid displayed planned trade routes, scientific exchange, stations, and joint training academies. Captain Kara surveyed it all, feeling something she had never allowed herself: hope. She turned to Commander Hun, whose crest gleamed in the soft lights. "The greatest miscalculation," she said softly, "is not underestimating an enemy's strength but underestimating their capacity for change." Hun inclined his head. "Then may we never make that mistake again." Outside the viewport, the ragged scars of the Caridian expanse receded, replaced by the promise of uncharted worlds. Within the Vasker's hull, hearts of steel beat as one, reforged by battle, sustained by mercy, and poised to carry to civilizations into a future more luminous than any star.